We offer strategies and ideas on how you can stay out of crazy town. See, your human experience is meant to be lived with meaning, purpose, and creativity. You are here to contribute through your essence. We are best friends, moms, entrepreneurs, and above all, find our flow in assisting you to find yours. We come together weekday mornings to bring you ideas to fall deeper in love with your life and the journey that you are on. Take what works and ditch the rest, and always stay set to love. Thank you for being a part of this community. We're all designed to live in flow. So let's go.
Good morning to our Set to Love community, to my best friend Eva. How are we today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I thought a good thing for us to talk about today would be moving. How are we moving with bad news? You know, these days, life is really a roller coaster and it has so many ups and downs. And unfortunately, bad news is not a stranger to a lot of us. And so I thought that would be a good thing to talk about today, because how we're going to go forward and have a life of flow. We also need to learn how to deal with bad news. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be a good thing to talk about today. What do you think?
I think it's great. Yeah, I see bad news in a kind of a couple different ways. So there's like the bad news of like the disappointment. So you really wanted that job opportunity and you didn't get it. There's that kind of bad news. And then there's the bad news like, I just found out my significant other cheated on me, kind of life-changing bad news. Or I just found out my mom is really sick and in the hospital. Or I just found out I lost someone I really cared about. There's that kind of really bad news. And either way, it's not great. It's not fun to be in that place. So what are some strategies and some tips or tools to get through the hard things, but then also like the really hard things, those moments that almost just like take your breath away when that news happens. I wish they would teach this in school. Like, this is a useful thing to build resilience, right? To be able to maneuver through and get through bad news and challenging things. And it's just something that we're not really taught. Young people, I think there's a way to do it better, and we're just kind of sharing some of our ideas, but I think it could be a real beneficial thing for people if we were to teach it and help kids really be able to understand it.
And I think too, a lot of times when we hear bad news, a lot of times we try to either pretend it's not happening or put a brave face on. And I think the first step when you get bad news is to really just allow it to come in. Allow it to be there, and don't fight your feelings. Like, cry if you need to cry, sleep if you need to sleep, and feel what those emotions are, because if it's not acknowledged, I think it will rear its head later. You know what I'm saying? And because emotions are so deep. And then I think also when we hear bad news, we tell ourselves stories because we base it on our past or other bad things that have happened. So sometimes we might get bad news and we already have that person already passed away, or we project all of these things instead of just, take the initial thing in, feel the emotions, and then from there, have your times when you're going to cry about it or not, but kind of give yourself a time to adjust, and how is your future going to change, and kind of go day to day. Like, don't project the worst.
Right. And it's not always, I think we make it about ourselves a lot of times. And the story that we start telling, sometimes it's a reflection on us, or a reflection on our past, or something that we think. So, for example, if you were to find out that your significant other cheated on you, all of a sudden it's about you, like, what, I wasn't good enough, or why would I do that? Or what could I have done different? And sometimes it really isn't even about you. There's really not a whole lot that you can even do. When someone else gets sick, something else happens, it's okay. I can just be here. I can, like you said, feel how you feel in the moment, sit with it, and then don't start making up stories. And because that voice can start, you can go so many different places with how's this going to affect my future? What does this say about me and who I am? Why didn't I didn't get that job. Oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. I'm not a good person. And none of that's true. Well, maybe it is true, but for the most part, it's not true, and we just tell ourselves these things instead of seeing it as like, okay, there's a lesson to be learned here. There's something for me to experience here. Sometimes I think feeling the hard things, I won't even call it bad. I hate to even put it as bad or good. Sometimes facing and feeling the challenging and hard things really help us to appreciate the good. And it also just helps us to feel the range of human emotions. I mean, feeling sad and being heartbroken in some ways is a beautiful experience, because it just, like, you're human. You get to have this life and you get to experience these things. And it makes us feel and really connect to our bodies and our reality around us. So there is beauty in sadness. A lot of beautiful art is created in sadness and in bad news and in hard times. But it also really helps us to appreciate the good. When the good is here, we're like, oh, this feels so much better than that really hard time that I was in. And wow, I can appreciate this moment so much because I have something of contrast to compare it to.
Well, I think gratitude is really important, to always have gratitude, but sometimes when you're in the midst of a crisis of some sort, whether it be divorce, like you said, or a job or whatever it is. The other thing is to realize that sometimes out of really bad things that happen, something good comes out of it. You learn so much about yourself and how resilient you are. And the other thing is there's always hope. And hope is that pain doesn't last forever.
Yes.
As soon as you face all of these fears of you're going to lose your job, that means, you tell yourself, I'm going to lose my house then, and what's going to happen when I'm this, and you can make yourself, like I've done it, you can make yourself crazy on focusing on negative. And part of flow is to say, okay, what am I here to learn from this? I learned so much about myself going through a divorce that was good. I kind of really think there was more good that came out of it than bad.
Right.
And you, of course, at the time and the pain that you have to go through to, get where you need to go is really, tough times. But looking back, bad news doesn't always have to be bad. I think it's about being able to stand up, face it, see how your life is going to change, and what ways you can make the pain easier. And if that means
being kind to yourself, really being kind to yourself when you're in that moment. I know for me, there's been a few times in my life where I've had that news come in that just really, the moment I hear it, I don't even know how to react. It's like my life someone just pushed pause on my life. And then the thoughts and the panic. It's like I'm sitting at the top of a roller coaster I didn't even know I was on. I'm sitting at the top, and all of a sudden this news comes, and it takes a second to like click over the edge, and then you just start going, and the thoughts and how you feel. And I think part of it is just knowing, oh yeah, okay, this is going to be a roller coaster. This is going to be, my feelings are going to be in check and are going to be paused at some moments when I'm going around that turn or I'm kind of up on that hill. Then I'm going to go back down, and then I'm going to slowly breathe and build my way back up and hold it. But then something else might come. And isn't that just life? That's just like,
when I think back to a time when I think back to a time in my life, I was a single mom at the time, and I was working for a company doing skincare, and we had a disagreement. And I never thought, because I'm always so agreeable. And the one time I stick up for myself, they didn't renew my contract, which meant that I didn't have a job. And that meant, how was I going to feed my kids? And I remember that night moving my things out of work, panicking. I mean, I was panicked. How am I going to do it? How, crying. And I I had a terrible headache thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I did all the things that you probably shouldn't do, but they're just emotions and you're dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I had to put a brave face and deal with what was in front of me because it wasn't going to help me just to cry. So
Mm-hmm.
I was proactive. Literally, by the next day, I was working out of my house for a couple of days. By the day after that, I had a new place I was working, and you can adapt. You can ebb and flow where there's hard times. Was it easy? No, I don't want to go through that again. But I think about the lessons it taught me about myself. And if I would have just stayed in bed and cried,
you wouldn't have
that
gotten
wasn't going
anything
to help
done.
me. But
No.
in a very short time, and like you said, how things happen. I remember my first client that came to my house, just for that day, she brought me flowers and she said, "You got this." So also having people around you that are going to be for you and to reach out to people that can support you and help you through a time when it's not the end of the world. And I guess the other thing is when someone dies, that's got to be the hardest point because our lives change forever.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say to do is to focus on the good things that you had with that person and the happy times, and to not push away the loved ones you do have, because there is no promise for you yourself for tomorrow. So you don't want to, I just say, have your time, give it my thing, pull down the visor in the car, put it on the shelf, whatever it is. Take the time that you need to mourn, but don't let it stop you. Keep going, face those fears, and, because it's always going to happen. It doesn't matter. Things can be smooth for a while, and then
we can't live in that place of fear also, like, oh my gosh, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. You can't, yes, bad things are going to happen, or things that are going to be considered challenges, or things you're not going to like and that you might deem as bad. But I worry about that a lot. I think like, oh, I have 6 kids. And so that's, what's going to happen to one of them? And what if every time they get in the car, every time Coleman drives them back to Chad's house, I have to say a little prayer. I tell her, put your seatbelt on, please text me right when you get there, because I have this crazy fear that something's going to happen or whatever. And that's a terrible place to live in as well. So not to project, not to live in those scary places of bad news is going to come, but also just to know that should bad news come your way, you can get through this. You can get through whatever. There's a lesson to be learned. There is good in even these hard things. And I know that sounds so crazy sometimes when we're in the midst of something really hard, to think that there's some kind of good that's going to come of this. Like when I, finally discovered some things that Chad had done in our relationship, it was like, what good can possibly come of this? What good can come of this? And it's so hard to hold space to think of hope and that something good can come of this. But so much good has come from facing the things that were broken and not just hiding anymore, and being more open, and just and like being okay with just how life goes. Sometimes it's tough. And I'm really grateful for you, Shelley, for being in my life. And I think, to your point of having someone in your life, when you go through something really, really hard, like a death or a marriage falling apart or losing a job or someone getting sick, like a really tough thing, not just not getting that job or not just running your mile in 10 minutes instead of 8 that you had hoped, not just a little disappointment, but a really tough thing. Having people in your life that can just love you and sit with you and be with you is so important. And just to validate how you feel, being kind to yourself and having those people that can love you through whatever is challenging. I see people do that a lot on Facebook. They'll post, even if it's just one sentence, like, oh, my mother-in-law is in the hospital, and they get so much love and support back. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about social media, is that we can support one another on there when needed, and know that you're not alone. We are not alone in whatever it is that we are facing and whatever bad news comes our way, and we can get through tough things. We can all do hard things.
And my final thought is to remember for the gratitude. My husband has had 2 open heart surgeries. In my time with him, I've gone through one of them with him. But I have to say, the gratitude that I have, that, when I hear him snore, I'm so grateful because I can hear him breathing. And it's a choice that I make to stay in gratitude for every day that I have with him, and the things that we can do to be healthy and strong and be appreciative of each day. Because, having a heart that's not the greatest, you can dwell on that negativity, or you can stay healthy and keep doing things and being appreciative. So I know at least my life is full with my partner, and Bob is amazing. And I stay grateful that his heart is beating. And I don't dwell on the negative of what could be, because I don't know how much time I have. So I'm just going to stay grateful.
And it takes away from the joy that you have now with that person when you do live in that
present.
place.
Do the good things, do the positive things, live in the present, stay grateful. And I hope this helps someone today. I really do. You can find us at settolove.com. If you would like to send us an email, we're at settolovepodcast@gmail.com. We're here every weekday mornings at 8:30. We'd love to hear some of your comments, some ideas.
How do you move through your bad news? What do you do? What are some of your tips? If you could share those with us, or if you're struggling with something right now and you just want some love and some support, let this community be that for you. So we love you so much. Thank you, friend, for another great episode.
Thank you, and have a great day. Love you. Hit the bell, someone. Hit the bell.